The brakes screamed before they failed. Sarah Langston's sleek black Tesla skidded across the rain-slicked mountain road, tires clawing at the asphalt as the Pacific Northwest's jagged cliffs loomed closer. Her pulse thundered, drowning out the radio's low hum of a Fleetwood Mac song she hadn't heard since college. The steering wheel vibrated under her white-knuckled grip, and for a split second, she saw it all. Her life, her fight, her family's betrayal, flashing like a reel of a movie she'd never wanted to star in. The car swerved, metal scraping against the guardrail, sparks flying like fireflies into the misty dusk. Then, silence. The Tesla stopped inches from the cliff's edge, its hood kissing the void. Sarah's breath hitched, her hands trembling as she stared at the 200-foot drop into the churning, slate-gray waters of Lake Crescent below. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She sat there, heart hammering, and whispered, "They did this." Not the road, not the rain, but them, her family, the Langstons, the ones who'd spent a decade erasing her from their lives, their emails, their glossy lakeside retreats, the ones who just sent her into a death spiral on a lonely stretch of Washington State's Highway 101. Sarah unbuckled her seatbelt, stepped out into the drizzle, and checked the undercarriage. The brake line was severed, clean and deliberate. Her brother Ethan's smug face flashed in her mind. His penchant for fixing things, like he'd fixed her credit score years ago with a string of unpaid loans in her name. This wasn't an accident. This was war. Sarah Langston, 38, wasn't just a survivor. She was a tech genius, the founder of CipherLock, a cybersecurity startup on the cusp of a billion-dollar IPO. Her algorithms protected Fortune 500 companies from hackers, but nothing could shield her from the family who'd branded her unstable, selfish, a tech hermit who'd traded her roots for a Seattle penthouse. For 10 years, they'd excluded her from their annual retreat at the Langston family's lakefront estate, a sprawling, cedar-shingled mansion nestled in the misty embrace of Lake Crescent. 10 years of silence, of edited photos where her face was cropped out, of empty chairs at the dinner table where her name was never spoken. But this time, Sarah wasn't begging for an invite. She'd bought the damn house, and when her family arrived with their Louis Vuitton luggage and fake smiles, they'd find the front desk asking, "Are you on Miss Langston's guest list?" For the first time in a decade, they'd have to say her name or leave. The morning had started like any other in Sarah's meticulously curated world. Her penthouse in Seattle's Belltown district was a study in minimalism, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Puget Sound, sleek white furniture, and a single sapphire glass starfish on her desk, a relic from her mother, Margaret. From a time when love didn't come with conditions. Sarah sat at her kitchen island, her laptop open, a cup of black coffee cooling beside her. She was halfway through a pitch deck for CipherLock's IPO when the email pinged. The subject line was bold, cheerful, and gut-punching. Langston Family Lake Retreat 2025, RSVP now. Her breath caught. She clicked before she could stop herself. The email was a dagger. Everyone was CC'd. Chloe, her perfect older sister. Ethan, her scheming brother. Aunt Linda, even cousin Nate, who'd been AWOL since the Obama years. But Sarah's name? Nowhere. Not in the thread, not in the invite list, not even a typo. They hadn't forgotten her. They'd erased her. She scrolled through the replies, each one a fresh wound. Chloe's quip about last year's bonfire, Ethan's joke about the lake's epic fishing, a photo of the estate's dock at sunset, the same dock where Sarah at 10 had caught her first trout while her dad clapped like she'd won an Olympic medal, before he started calling Chloe his pride and Sarah too ambitious, before Margaret introduced her to friends as the one who's always working, before Sarah learned that being the youngest didn't mean being loved more. It meant being useful longer. She stared at the screen, the Seattle skyline glinting beyond her window like a cruel joke. The warmth of the city's tech boom couldn't touch the cold void in her chest. You okay? Her assistant, Marcus, stood in the doorway, holding a tablet and a protein shake. Sarah swallowed. Yeah, just spam. He raised an eyebrow. From them again? She didn't answer, just offered a tight smile and shut her laptop, but she didn't reopen the pitch deck. Her hands hovered, then opened a tab she'd bookmarked weeks ago, a real estate listing for the Lake Crescent estate, the house where Chloe had staged her influencer-worthy engagement photos, where Margaret and Dad had toasted their 35th anniversary, while Sarah was stuck in San Francisco for a conference they forgot to mention. It was for sale quietly, no family announcement. The market had tanked and they were offloading it like a used car. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, her best friend and Cypherlock's lead hacker. Saw the invite. Want to crash it for kicks? Sarah's fingers hovered. Then she typed, or maybe I'd do something bigger. She clicked contact agent on the listing. The confirmation email landed before she could second-guess herself. Her phone rang, the ringtone she'd assigned to Margaret years ago, a soft piano riff that now felt like a funeral march. Sarah let it ring twice. Hi, Mom, she said, voice flat, bracing for the blow. Sarah, darling, Margaret began, her tone sugary, the kind she used before delivering a knife. I didn't wait for it. Let me guess, Chloe's kids need the guest suite, or Ethan's new girlfriend hates shared bathrooms. Silence. Sarah could picture Margaret's manicured nails tapping, searching for her script. You know how crowded it gets, Margaret said finally. We're tight on space this year. Sarah wanted to laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. 2 years ago, same excuse. The kids need the bunk room. Last year, Chloe had claimed Sarah's invite went to spam. You understand, don't you? Margaret added pitifully. It's just logistics. Sarah understood. She understood that her presence was optional, her value tied to what she could pay for Chloe's wedding, Ethan's rehab, the family's taxes. I understand perfectly, Sarah said. Thanks for the heads up. She hung up before Margaret could respond. No tears, no screams. She poured a glass of water with the calm of someone who'd seen the storm coming. Back at her desk, she opened her financials. The numbers were her army. Liquid cash, IPO stock options, discretionary assets. She whispered, game on. 10 minutes later, Rachel texted. Screenshot incoming. It was a group chat Sarah wasn't in. Chloe, Sarah's not coming again, wants to make it about herself, as usual. Ethan, good. Less drama. Margaret, she's no daughter of mine, laughing emojis followed, a few poor Sarah texts, and one from Uncle Ted. That girl needs a Sarah stared, numb, but beneath the numbness, something stirred. Not rage, not sadness, but clarity. They weren't just excluding her, they were rewriting her, turning her absence into blame, her silence into their story. To them, she murmured, I'm a ghost who left the party. But she hadn't left. She'd been locked out. Her mind flashed to a memory, sharp and vivid. She was 11, at the Lake Crescent estate, building a driftwood fort by the water. She'd spent hours stacking logs, weaving seaweed into the walls, even carving her initials into a smooth stone. The family gathered, marveling. Then Chloe stepped forward, posed by the fort, and smiled for the camera. She's so creative, Margaret had said, clapping. Sarah didn't correct her. Neither did Chloe. That night, Sarah cried in the bunk room while they toasted Chloe's vision downstairs. Now Sarah opened the real estate app again. No hesitation. She scheduled a private viewing. No scene, no warning, just action. Quiet, precise, final. The next morning, Sarah drove to the estate, a 3-hour trek from Seattle through misty forests and winding roads. The lakefront office was a modern glass cube tucked between a kayak rental shop and a craft coffee bar. A woman with silver-streaked hair and a plaid scarf stood from behind the desk. You must be Sarah, she said warmly. I was told you'd come. Sarah nodded. Thanks for the slot. The woman, Ellen, pulled up the listing on her tablet. Funny thing, she said. Your name sounds familiar. Related to the owners? Sarah met her gaze. For now, Ellen led her to the estate, a 5-minute drive along the lake's edge. The house was breathtaking. Cedar walls, a wraparound porch, floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting the water's moody grays. Inside, it smelled of pine and memory. Summers of board games, winters of hot cocoa, moments before the family started carving her out. Sarah walked the halls, her boots echoing on the hardwood. The master suite, with its king bed and private deck, was where Margaret held court, where Chloe planned her Instagram grids. The bunk room, Sarah's old haunt, still had her childhood sketches taped to the wall. Ellen watched her closely. It's a special place, she said. Lots of history. Sarah nodded. Too much. Back at the office, Sarah signed the intent to purchase. Her IPO stock options gave her the cash. Her resolve gave her the nerve. Ellen hesitated. This is a big move. You sure? Sarah's smile was steel. I've never been sure. The deal was set. $4,200,000, 0 cents, closing in 30 days. The family wouldn't know until it was too late. As Sarah drove back to Seattle, her phone buzzed. Rachel again. You're not going to believe this. Another screenshot. Chloe, Sarah's too busy playing tech mogul. Let's keep the retreat drama free. Ethan, she'd probably hack the Wi-Fi and ruin it. Margaret, she was always too fragile for us. Sarah's grip tightened on the wheel. Fragile? She'd built a company from nothing, fended off corporate sharks, and now she'd outmaneuvered her own blood. Fragile was the last word they'd use when she was done. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She paced her penthouse, the city's lights a restless audience. The sapphire starfish caught her eye, its iridescence mocking her. She picked it up, remembering Margaret's words when she'd given it to her at 12. For my special girl. Before Chloe became the golden child, before Ethan's charm masked his greed, before Margaret's love turned conditional, Sarah set the starfish down, harder than she meant to. It didn't break, but the sound echoed like a promise. She opened her laptop, pulled up SaferLock's secure server, and started digging. Rachel had taught her how to trace digital footprints, and Sarah was a fast learner. She found the family's group chat, not the sanitized one they knew she could see, but the real one buried in a private app. The messages were a gut punch. Chloe, Sarah's a liability. Let's keep her out for good. Ethan, she's got money though. Maybe we hit her up for the taxes again. Margaret, she's no daughter of mine. Let her rot in her tower. Sarah's vision blurred, not with tears, but with focus. She saved every message, every timestamp, every emoji, evidence. And the next day, Sarah drove to a storage unit in Tacoma, a concrete bunker where she'd stashed pieces of her past. Unit 17C hadn't been opened in 6 years. The lock groaned, the roll-up door rattling like a warning. Inside, amid boxes of college textbooks and her first apartment's IKEA furniture, was Nana Rose's cedar trunk. Sarah's throat tightened as she pulled it forward, the scent of lavender sachets hitting her like a wave. Nana Rose, the only one who'd ever seen her, who'd whispered, "You're stronger than they know," before she died. Sarah opened the trunk, her hands steady but reverent. Inside was a journal, ocean blue with driftwood charms glued to the corners. Nana Rose's clumsy handiwork. Sarah had teased her about it once. They'll fall off in a week. Nana Rose had smiled. Then you'll glue your own truth to it. Beneath the journal was an envelope, addressed in her slanted script. For Sarah. Open when you stop chasing their approval. Sarah sat on the cold concrete, her breath shallow, and tore it open. A letter, short and sharp. One day, you'll see why I left this for you. Love doesn't always come from those who raise you. It finds you through the cracks. Use this when their silence breaks you. With it was a trust document, legal and ironclad. Sarah's name, Nana Rose's signature, a clause, should the deed holders default on taxes or neglect property obligations, the named beneficiary, Sarah Langston, reserves the right to execute a full title transfer. Sarah's pulse quickened. She flipped through the pages, her mind racing. The family had been dodging taxes for years, leaning on her to cover the shortfall while they partied at the estate. Nana Rose had known. She'd built a trap, and Sarah was the one to spring it. She tucked the documents into her bag, locked the unit, and drove straight to her lawyer's office in downtown Seattle. By noon, she sat across from Carla Nguyen, a partner at Nguyen and Wells, who whistled as she read the trust. "This isn't just leverage," Carla said, tapping the clause. "It's a kill shot. If they've defaulted, and I'd bet my license they have, you own that estate in 14 days. They can't fight it." Sarah leaned back, the weight settling. 14 days? The same time they'd be packing coolers and stringing fairy lights, assuming the house was theirs. The next morning, Sarah brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead and opened her laptop. A new email blinked. Langston Retreat, final RSVP. Chloe's personal Gmail, dripping with faux warmth. Room assignments, a Spotify playlist, even a family vs. family kayak race. Sarah's name? Missing. No hi, Sarah. No hope you're there. But Chloe had CC'd everyone else. 5 minutes later, Rachel texted, "You need to see this." A screenshot from a chat titled Cora Langston's Only. Chloe, "Sarah's not coming. Let's skip the drama this time." Ethan, "Peace at last." Margaret, "She's too busy being important. Her old room's free." Rachel, "You want it?" Sarah read it twice. Her old room, with Nana Rose's quilt, her childhood books, the desk where she'd written her MIT application. They weren't just excluding her, they were carving her out piece by piece. Sarah didn't cry. She logged into the estate's back-end system, now legally hers. The calendar showed one unbooked room, the master suite. She typed, "Guest, Miss S. Langston." Arrival, Friday. Preferences, Pinot Noir on ice, crisp linens, total privacy. Confirmation pinged, their retreat, booked under her name. She smiled, faint but sharp. Let them plan their party. Let them arrive with their charcuterie boards and fake tears. They'd forgotten the deed, the clause, the truth. Sarah wasn't reclaiming a house. She was rewriting the story. That night, Sarah stood on her penthouse balcony, a glass of wine in hand, the city humming below. She thumbed through old photos on her phone. Retreats where she'd been the photographer, never the subject. Birthdays where her gifts arrived unopened. A photo of Chloe blowing out candles, Sarah smiling behind her, cropped out in the posted version. Her father's words echoed from the one time she'd fought back. "You're too sensitive, Sarah. Not everything's about you, but this was." Not because she craved their love, but because she'd earned her place. She texted Rachel, "Thanks for the intel. Don't cancel your plans. Get ready for fireworks." Rachel replied, "I live for this." The lakefront estate was theirs to borrow, but the key was in Sarah's hand. She closed her laptop, stepped inside, and turned off the lights. The city's glow faded behind her. Tomorrow, she'd drive to Lake Crescent. Tomorrow, they'd face her. And when they did, they'd learn what happens when you erase someone who knows how to rewrite the code. The wine burned before it numbed. Sarah Langston's vision blurred as she sat at the polished mahogany table in the Lake Crescent Estate's dining room, her family's voices fading into a distorted hum. Chloe's laugh, sharp and performative, cut through the haze. Ethan's smug drawl followed, something about family unity. Margaret's manicured hand waved dismissively, her diamond ring catching the chandelier's light. Sarah clutched her glass, the Pinot Noir's bitter aftertaste lingering like a warning. She'd come to this so-called family meeting against her better judgment, hoping for a crack in their facade, a hint of remorse for a decade of exclusion. Instead, she got poison. Her knees buckled as she tried to stand, the room tilting like a funhouse mirror. "Sarah?" Rachel's voice, urgent, broke through from across the table. Sarah's hand grazed the tablecloth, knocking over her glass. Red wine bled across the white linen, a grotesque mimicry of the blood pounding in her ears. She collapsed, her cheek hitting the cold hardwood floor. Chloe's wide-eyed stare the last thing she saw before darkness swallowed her whole. The Langstons' lakefront estate, her newly acquired fortress, had become a trap, and her family the executioners. Sarah woke to the sterile beep of a hospital monitor, her mouth dry as ash. Rachel sat beside her, eyes bloodshot, a laptop balanced on her knees. "You're lucky," Rachel said, voice tight. "The ER doc said it was ricin. Slow acting, but you got here in time." Sarah's mind reeled. Ricin? A poison so deliberate it screamed intent. Her family's faces flashed, Chloe's fake concern, Ethan's smirk, Margaret's calculated silence. "Ooh," Sarah croaked, her throat raw. Rachel's jaw clenched. "I'm working on it, but I've got something." She turned to the laptop, showing a hacked screenshot from Chloe's phone. A text to an unknown number. She drank it. "Make sure it looks clean." Sarah's blood ran cold. Her sister hadn't just excluded her. She'd tried to erase her permanently. Rachel had acted fast, dragging Sarah to her car and speeding to Port Angeles General while the family scrambled to call for help. The hospital's toxicology report confirmed the poison, and Sarah's survival was a miracle. Or a miscalculation. She lay there, the IV dripping, her mind sharpening despite the fog. This wasn't just betrayal. It was war, and Chloe had fired the first shot. Sarah's fingers curled into fists. "Get me out of here," she said. Rachel nodded, already packing. "You're not safe until we end this." Back in her Seattle penthouse, Sarah recovered slowly, her body weak, but her resolve ironclad. Rachel set up a war room in the living room, laptops and monitors glowing with data. She'd hacked deeper into Chloe's phone, pulling texts, call logs, even deleted voicemails. The evidence was damning. Chloe had coordinated with a contact listed only as fixer, discussing dosages and timing. "She thought you'd be dead before dessert," Rachel said, her voice laced with... Sarah stared at the sapphire glass starfish on her desk, its iridescence mocking the family she'd once trusted. "She's wrong," Sarah said. "I'm just getting started." She called Carla Nguyen, her lawyer, who'd reviewed Nana Rose's trust. Over a secure line, Carla's voice was steady but urgent. "The trust is bulletproof. Your family defaulted on taxes 3 years running, $180,000 0 cents in arrears. Nana Rose's clause gives you full title rights. Sign the petition, and the estate's yours in 14 days. Sarah's pen hovered over the document Carla had couriered. The Lake Crescent estate, her family's pride, their stage for a decade of exclusion, was hers to claim. She signed, the ink a silent vow. "They don't know, do they?" she asked. Carla's smile was audible. "Not a clue." Sarah hung up, her gaze drifting to the city skyline. The family was planning their retreat, oblivious to her move. Chloe's latest email, forwarded by Rachel, detailed room assignments and a sunset toast to unity. Sarah's name was absent, as always. But she wasn't absent anymore. She logged into the estate's booking system, now under her control, and reserved the master suite. Guess Miss S. Langston. Preferences: Pinot Noir on ice, crisp linens, total privacy. The confirmation pinged, a digital middle finger to her family's ignorance. Let them pack their kayaks and string their fairy lights. She'd be waiting. The forest ambush came 2 nights later. Sarah had driven to the estate for a final walkthrough, needing to feel the house's walls, its history, before the confrontation. The moon hung low over Lake Crescent, casting shadows through the dense pines. She parked near the trailhead, her boots crunching on gravel as she walked toward the water. The air was sharp, pine-scented, grounding. Then a twig snapped. Her instincts, honed by years of navigating corporate sharks, screamed danger. She turned, but too late. 2 figures in black masks lunged from the trees, one wielding a tire iron, the other a knife. Sarah ducked, the tire iron grazing her shoulder, pain flaring hot and bright. She stumbled, her back hitting a tree, and kicked out, catching the knife wielder's shin. He grunted, dropping the blade. She scrambled for it, her fingers closing around the handle as the second thug swung again. She rolled the iron, slamming into the trunk, bark exploding. Adrenaline surged. She slashed at the first thug's leg, drawing blood, and bolted into the forest, her breath ragged. They pursued, their footsteps heavy, but Sarah knew these woods. Pride, childhood summers spent memorizing every trail. She lost them in a thicket, crouching behind a fallen log, her heart pounding like a war drum. When the silence held, she crept back to her car, her shoulder throbbing, blood seeping through her jacket. Inside, she found a burner phone wedged under the seat, planted no doubt by her attackers. Its call log showed one number, Ethan's. Sarah's vision narrowed. Her brother hadn't just sabotaged her brakes. He'd hired muscle to finish the job. She pocketed the phone, evidence of his betrayal, and drove to Rachel's safe house in Olympia, her mind racing. Ethan thought he could scare her off. He'd underestimated her. Rachel patched Sarah's shoulder, her hands steady but her eyes furious. "This is beyond family drama," she said, stitching the gash. "They're playing for keeps." Sarah winced but nodded. "So am I." Rachel pulled up Ethan's financials. Hacked from his bank accounts, a $50,000 0 cents transfer to an offshore account labeled consulting matched the ambush's timing. "He's not working alone," Rachel said. "There's a bigger player. Someone with cash and motive." Sarah's mind flashed to the estate's sale listing, the shadowy investor who'd bid against her. Was Ethan their pawn? The question gnawed, a hook for later. Sarah returned to the estate the next day, her shoulder bandaged, her resolve steel. She needed proof, something to tie Ethan to the ambush and Chloe to the poison. The house was quiet, its cedar walls whispering memories. She searched the office, once Nana Rose's, and found a locked drawer in the desk. Her lock-picking skills, learned from Rachel during a team-building hackathon, came in handy. Inside was a ledger. Nana Rose's handwriting meticulous. Tax defaults 20192022. Langston. Family negligence. Trust clause activated. Beneath it, a bombshell. A letter revealing Nana Rose's own disinheritance by Margaret's parents. A secret buried to save the family's image. Sarah's breath caught. Nana Rose hadn't just left her the estate, she'd left her a legacy of defiance. The gas leak came that night as Sarah pored over the ledger. A faint hiss, then a wave of dizziness. Her vision swam, her lungs tightening. She stumbled to the window, wrenching it open, fresh air flooding in. The estate's heating system, recently serviced by Ethan's crew, was rigged to kill. Carbon monoxide, odorless, deadly. Sarah crawled to the control panel, shutting off the gas, her head pounding. She collapsed on the porch, gulping air, the lake's chill grounding her. They weren't stopping. Brake lines, poison, ambushes, now this. Her family wasn't just cruel, they were lethal. She called Rachel, who traced the service records. Ethan's signature was on the work order, buried under a fake company name. "He's sloppy," Rachel said. "We've got him." Sarah's voice was ice. "Not yet. I want them all." She muted the family chat, blocked their numbers, and drove to Nana Rose's grave, an hour east in a quiet cemetery nestled among cedar groves. The headstone was simple, no roses. Nana Rose had hated performative gestures. Sarah knelt, the grass damp under her jeans. "They're doing it again," she whispered. "You'd laugh at their nerve." She placed a single lavender sprig, Nana Rose's favorite, and stood. "You told me to raise my value, not my voice." "I'm listening." The family's ignorance was her weapon. Chloe's latest chat, forwarded by Rachel, showed Ethan claiming the master suite. "Dibs on the king bed. Feels good to win." Comments piled up. "Classic Ethan. Save it from the kids." No one questioned the booking. No one saw Sarah. She smiled, faint but fierce, and typed into the estate system. "All rooms locked except master suite. Guest S. Langston." The retreat was days away. They'd arrive, smug and entitled, only to face her. The confrontation came at dusk, the lake shrouded in mist. Sarah waited in the estate's lobby, her heels clicking on the slate floor. The family arrived, Chloe's white Range Rover leading the pack, Ethan's oversized F-150 close behind, Margaret's vintage Mercedes trailing. They spilled out, luggage in tow, laughter echoing, until they saw her. Chloe froze at the reception desk, where a young clerk, Mia, asked, "Are you on Miss Langston's guest list?" Chloe's face twisted. "Excuse me? This is our house. We've been here 20 years." Mia's eyes flicked to Sarah, who stepped forward, her voice calm but cutting. "Not anymore. The deed finalized 3 weeks ago. It's mine." The silence was electric, a storm about to break. Ethan barked a laugh, panic beneath it. "What is this, Sarah? Some tech prank?" She handed Mia her ID. "No prank. Legal. Clean. Final." Margaret clutched her purse, her voice trembling. "You bought it? That's impossible." Sarah's gaze was steady. "You should have checked the trust Nana Rose left me, or the tax bills you ignored." Chloe's eyes blazed. "A cornered animal. You knew. We planned this. This is our legacy." Sarah stepped closer. "I was your daughter, your sister. You left me out of every invite, every photo. I made my own way." In. Mia hesitated, then picked up the phone for security. Sarah's voice was calm. "Escort anyone not on my list. Be kind, their family." Chloe muttered, "I'll sue you for this." Sarah didn't flinch. "Check the clause on defaulted taxes first. You'll be surprised." Margaret stepped forward, her voice low. "You hate us that much?" Sarah let the silence linger, then said, "I don't hate you. I stopped hoping you'd change." She turned to the elevator, their confusion fading behind her like lake mist. The doors closed, her breath slowing, not in relief, but in readiness. The media storm hit hours later. A news van parked outside, its headlights piercing the estate's windows. A reporter, slick and predatory, shouted, "Miss Langston, did you coerce your father into signing over the estate? Sources say he was senile." Sarah shut the door, her phone buzzing with texts from colleagues, neighbors, even a distant cousin. "Is this true?" Chloe's viral ex-post screamed betrayal. A woman who steals from her family was never raised with love. Pray for her soul. Comments piled up. Fire emojis, prayers, vitriol from strangers who didn't know Sarah's name until now. An injunction landed in her inbox. Cease occupancy of 404 Lake Crescent Drive, pending review. Violation meant fines, maybe jail. Rachel texted. "They wanted war. Here's ammo." Attached were leaked audio files. Margaret's voice, cold and clear. "Sarah was a mistake. She should have been cut out years ago." Chloe. "She's better off dead than here." Sarah's chest tightened, not with pain, but with clarity. She opened the estate safe hidden behind a false panel in Nana Rose's office. Inside, a bombshell. Letters proving Margaret's affair buried to protect the family's image. Nana Rose had known, had kept them as leverage. Sarah's hands shook. This wasn't just a house. It was a battlefield. The court hearing was a crucible. Sarah walked in alone, her navy dress. Nana Rose's steel wool blue, her only armor. Chloe sat in white, a martyr's costume. Margaret stared ahead, pale as death. Ethan was absent, likely drafting threats. The judge, stern but fair, heard Chloe's lawyer claim Sarah exploited their father's declining health. Sarah stood, her voice steady. "I have video evidence of his consent." The courtroom dimmed as the bailiff played it. Her father, lucid, on the estate's porch 2 years ago. "Sarah gets this place. She's the only one who cared, not what I could give." Gasps rippled. Sarah followed with Chloe's audio. "She's better off dead." The judge's brow rose, his gaze pinning Chloe, who shrank. "No basis for the petition," he ruled. "Miss Langston acted lawfully. This court won't validate cruelty disguised as tradition." Faith dismissed. Outside, the media swarmed. Sarah faced them once. Sometimes you break a cycle by holding your truth. She walked away, the flashbulbs fading. But Ethan wasn't done. He cornered her that night on the estate's cliffside path, his eyes wild. You think you've won? He shoved her toward the edge, the lake churning below. Sarah's training, self-defense classes Rachel insisted on kicked in. She twisted, elbowing his ribs and pushed back, pinning him to the ground. Who's your investor? She demanded. Ethan spat. You'll never know. She let him go, knowing she'd find out. Sarah leaked the family's emails to a local journalist, exposing their betrayal. The Safe's letters, proof of Margaret's affair, went public, fracturing their alliances. But Sarah didn't stop there. She donated the estate to a women's shelter, a final act of defiance. The family, locked out in a storm, raged. But Sarah was done. She drove away, the lake fading in her rear view, her reflection softer, stronger. She'd reclaimed her voice, her truth, her power. The Langstons had their narrative, she had the deed. In the future,